Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. We have with us Tim Takacs, elder law attorney. Always good to have you on, and always encourage people to call in with their situation, their stories. And you were talking a little bit about baseline assessment.
Yeah. I don't know how we got onto that, but
what is that, and how does that relate to what
we're talking about? Like we were talking about, people coming in. The earlier we can get them in before they. Okay. Now, needless to say, if they're a healthy person, we can't necessarily predict when they're going to be unhealthy. But if they've already if they already have a diagnosis, then we can start making projections about what we can expect moving forward. So in in those types of cases, if we get people in there where they have an early diagnosis, our elder care coordinators, in our office, social worker, discharge plan, those that are non-lawyer healthcare professionals, are going to do an assessment, and we like to call it we want to get a baseline. Where is the person functionally? How well are they functioning now? Cognitively, as well as physically. Can they get around? What's their mobility and what sort of thing? Because we want, and we'll test that. So the longer we have, and since we do our representations over time, we've had clients for 15 years, as seeing them along the way. We want to see them regularly to see, okay, how are you doing? Is your function declining? Are you staying stable or whatever? So we call that the baseline. So if we do one initially, then let's say maybe in 3 years we can compare where they were 3 years ago to where they are today.
Interesting.
So that's just so the first one is like a baseline, and then we're going to be doing them periodically thereafter.
So with ones, that's fascinating. The ones you see 15 years down the road, do you see major change?
Some of them we do. Some of them. Some of them are normal aging.
Right.
Where we're not really seeing, maybe there's a minor loss of function or whatever, but nothing that's what would be not normal aging. But there are some, obviously, that and often they're coming into us when they maybe have already had a chronic illness develop. It just has not been it hasn't limited their function very much. So we're going to look at that and say, okay, how is that? Over time, how is that working for you? What can you do now so that in the future, you can slow your rate of decline?
Right.
I mean, that's the idea.
Sometimes people don't even believe they are declining, but maybe they see it. I don't know if this
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Like, oh, well.
Right. A lot of times it's the child that comes in at Christmas time or whatever that hasn't seen mom in a year and a half, and it's like, man, things are really going south, aren't they? And the other children are there, they're going, no, mom's still the same. Because they're seeing it like every day, and they don't necessarily see the decline, and of course, we feel like we're the professionals, at least my staff is, not me. I don't have those credentials. So if we can track that, then we can put things. We can take some steps to say, okay, what can we do? Is now the time to start bringing more help at home? What risks are in your house that may result in, maybe an accelerated decline? Are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Remember, the bathroom is the most dangerous place in the house.
Okay, all right.
I mean, it is, because that's if you're going to fall in the bathroom, that's the worst place to do it.
Right.
Because you're going to fall, you're going to be in the bathtub or whatever it is, you're going to be in a closed space and you can't get out, and there's no way to find your cell phone or be able to get out and call for help.
Oh, wow.
And so so those are the kind of things that we're tracking. And we're even, we've even talked about, like we were talking about during the break, is that, since I'm a near elder, remember?
Here's 2 years away.
I'm going, okay, I'm 2 years away, so why don't I do a baseline assessment? So I'm going to do one.
So you're going to do one?
I'm going to do one, in the fall. And I was just saying you just need to remind me, because I'll probably forget. But I'll be interested, because it's going to be in October, and I'll be interested to see, how it falls out. So probably, I'll see where I am. Am I a normal 63-year-old, or by then I'll be 64.
Okay.
So am I normal 64? Are there things that I should be doing that I'm not doing? All those sorts of things. And I'll probably be testing myself. Maybe she may advise me to say, well, come in every 3 years, unless unless you see something significant. So we're going to be doing this testing, this assessment.
Fascinating. All right. Well, see, all right, so that's something people can do.
Now, I don't know whether Medicare will pay for that, but remember, I'll be 64, so I won't be on Medicare, so I'll be private pay.
Right.
But I suspect that's probably somewhere down the road. That's going to be part of the chronic illness focus, or the preventive care focus that Medicare now is working on.
Something we usually get calls about. Trusts,
Yes.
isn't it trusts? You get excited when we talk about trusts, I feel like.
Yeah, one of the greatest products of the human mind.
Yes, you've said that.
Yes.
And no one else on this show has said that, so it's great to hear you say that.
Because when you think about it is that when I think about it is that, okay, here I am, and I'm an unhealthy older person, and you're my boy, and I'm going all right, well, I want you to, okay, so I want you to hold this for me. You take that. So now you're a trustee, and then and then I have instructions for you that say something like, now, when XYZ happens, then you're to give that cup to somebody else. Okay. Usually it's I'm giving you money to hold for the benefit of somebody else. Maybe your little brother who has cerebral palsy. Okay. Who has some sort of mental illness or schizophrenia or whatever. So you have a legal obligation, that by an agreement between you and me that you're going to use my money to take care of your little brother.
I can't use your money to take care of me.
That's right, because
you've specified how it's going to be.
Right. Now, you can get paid for holding that cup, and managing it for your little brother and making distributions for him. And that's a legal relationship which the law enforces. So if you screw up, then you can be liable for that. And that's a trust. That is a trust agreement that we have, where I'm trusting you with this money to use that money for the benefit of somebody else.
And so, how often does that come into play in what you do?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. I'm drafting. We're drafting trusts. There's probably not a week goes by that somebody in my office, one of the lawyers in my office, either Barbara or Chris, or me, is not drafting some sort of trust document.
And
we're doing them all the time.
A parent. It would be a parent. I guess that scenario you talked about. A parent who's worried about a child.
Right. And or one spouse that's worried about the other spouse.
Oh yeah,
that's a common thing. Okay, I walk into you walk into my office and say, well, Tim, my wife is not doing well. She's been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and I say, well, I'm so sorry to hear that. How is your health? And you're going to say, my health is worse than hers. I have a terminal illness. I want to make sure I'm probably going to die before she does. So how do I make sure she's taken care of? So we need a trust, so that when you pass away before she does, you're not just giving her money.
Because she wouldn't be capable.
She can't be, right. And you're not just giving your kids money because they are the most unreliable people on the planet, right?
That's another thing you say.
That's another thing I say. So maybe you name your brother to be the trustee, or maybe there is a child that is trustworthy, because if you have a legal relationship, then they can't just do we're not just holding it for, well, Daddy will do, we'll do the right thing, Daddy. It's like, well, I'm not worried about you, I'm worried about your creditors. Right. Well, I don't have any creditors. You don't have yet until you ride down the road and hit a bus full of school children. And you're not going to be able to tell the parents of those children that, oh, no, that's for I'm holding that for my mother. It's like, no, it's in your name.
In that scenario, a trust then would be protected?
That's protected, because it's not your money.
Okay, you're right, yeah.
And that's why I say it's one of the greatest products of the human mind, because that way I can protect that money after I'm gone for the benefit of my wife, my spouse.
Very interesting.
And I can go, I can go to my grave knowing that my wife is going to be taken care of. I mean, I've had spouses come into my office with terminal illnesses and say, now tell me again how this works.
Well, and you talk about it on this show, and it is fascinating, and I forget, but the way you just described it, that is a pretty powerful tool to have.
I mean, literally, I can think of I could think of two men that walked into my office probably within, they'd probably died like a month later, that walked into my office and said, I want to make sure this is set up the right way. So I explained it, told them, because that was the last thing they wanted to make sure was that we got this taken care of.
And if you could also hire an attorney, is that right? It's not only a family member.
Right.
It could be, I'm going to
Sure.
give this money to an attorney,
you
because maybe
could.
you don't have a family member you
Right.
trust.
That's right. Or you fire, or frankly, maybe you hire somebody, maybe who's in the finance business or a banker or somebody like that. Attorneys are okay, but see, we don't serve as trustee for our clients because that's too many hats.
Right. Right.
We're
You
the
just
one
draw
that's
up
drafting the trust. Our job is often to make sure it's carried out. And we may be monitoring the trust to make sure the trustee does the right thing.
So you would do that. You would, if you draw it up, that's something that you.
Well, not if we were. We would not be the trustee.
Right.
But maybe we're going to be the person that's going to be making sure the trustee does what they're supposed to do.
Okay. So that person who came into your office and was dying.
Right, and wants to provide for his spouse, he names like a child or a third party to be trustee. So we're going to represent, when he's dead, we're going to probably represent his wife. And make sure that the trustee does what they're supposed to do.
All right, that's fascinating. So, all right, we're going to take another break. If you have a question about trusts, give us a call. There's the number 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We can also talk about wills. Do you have any question about wills? We'll talk about that when we come back. Take a break.